Hello, everyone, and welcome back to round 5 at the Red Bull Ring. We are now in Division 1. I'm joined by my co-commentator, Kaido. How are you doing today, Kaido?
I'm doing well. A little tired after the chaos that Red Bull Ring seems to always bring.
Oh, yeah. And these cars, too, these cars seem to be quite the car to handle. We saw a lot of spinning out, a lot of collisions, a lot of really good racing, too, though, in Division 2. So hopefully we'll see just as good of racing in Division 1 and hopefully less VSCs. But you'll never know what happens.
At,
Any advice to our Division 1 drivers, Kaido?
I would say if you think you can get on the throttle, give it an extra half second because it's very easy, especially in this car, to get on the throttle a little too early, especially at turn 1, and send your car spinning.
Oh yeah, most definitely. In general, turn 1 at Red Bull Ring is very tricky, and combine it with these cars, it's just a recipe for disaster. Okay, so we will be starting qualifying now. Drivers will have 15 minutes to put in their best time. We're currently riding on board with Toasty at the moment. So taking a look at the last week's results, Stolz ended up winning the race at Watkins Glen. Harm's Way came in second and Toasty came in third. And from what it looks like, Stolz is leading the championship, the Drivers' Championship for Division 1 with 92 points. Harm's Way and Toasty are second and third respectively, but Harm's Way only has a 2-point lead over Toasty. And then we got Dutra in fourth and D Slov in fifth, and those two are separated by 1 point at 52 and 51 respectively. So some pretty tight battles for the championship. Stolz is certainly the one to beat at the moment. Harm's Way and Toasty are in their own battle, and Dutra and D Slov are in their own battle as well.
And of course, with Red Bull Ring and Daytona, anything can happen.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And that's why it's the last race. It's going to come down to just like, all things luck, strategy, and racecraft. Seeing as Daytona itself requires all those things, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how that plays out. So Razor VR, welcome to chat. Sorry about that, Kaido.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just going to say, I think it's going to be interesting because this will be our first time racing at Daytona with the new physics. Because we were on the old physics during our first visit to Daytona.
That's right. That is right. So that will be really interesting to see how that plays out and how that affects the side, like the wheel-to-wheel racing and the tire wear as well. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see if it's going to be more challenging or if it's going to be easier. Might be both. So it might be more challenging in some aspects, might be more difficult, more easier in some others. But that is still a week away. And we still have this today, the next hour or so, to see how we will be set up for the championship standings in both the drivers and the teams going into the final round.
And already things heating up in our qualifying session. Harm's Way laying down a 49.2, and Toasty not too far behind with their qualifying lap at the moment. Still a long ways to go in our qualifying session.
Yeah, so certainly Harm's Way doing very well in this season so far, but again, I think Stolz will be the person to beat. Stolz, I think, has qualified first in 2 of the 4 rounds that we've had so far. So certainly a top contender for the provisional pole position, I think, in my opinion. I think he will be the person to beat. I mean, he is the person to beat in terms of the Drivers' Championship, but I think he will also be the person to beat for qualifying as well.
It just depends on how caught up in traffic they are and a lot of different things. Red Bull Ring's very difficult to get around other vehicles, so if you're on a hot lap and you end up behind someone, that can just ruin your entire lap there, and you have to either lay off and give them a lot more space or try to find a way around them, which kills your time.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that track position is pretty important here. We saw that with the last race with people maintaining first position for like a couple laps at the end of the race with tires that weren't nearly as good as flying discs, and he was still able to take the lead, or keep the lead, excuse me. And so, I mean, we also saw, you know, how like when drivers were going in side by side into a turn, how if you're off the line, how disadvantaged that can be in regards to your exit speed, especially turn 1. So we'll see how that comes into play during our qualifying session and in the race. But as we say that, Stoles right now finding it difficult to put down a clean lap, is starting his first flying lap, it looks like. Or second, excuse me. His first was a 49.6. Currently sitting in 6th place at the moment.
I will say it's also very easy for drivers' laps to be not counted. At least in like Assetto Corsa, I don't know how Gran Turismo handles it, but the track limits at Red Bull Ring, very easy to cut and very easy for your qualifying lap to just be null and void at that point. So drivers have to also be careful when they're doing their qualifying session to make sure they're staying within the track limits. A little hard to tell what's exactly track limits and what's not at Red Bull Ring, but you got to find that fine line, and we see Stoles already improving, 49.421.
So while Stoles was improving, Willie jumped into 3rd place. We got R. Nixon in 5th, Pip in 6th, and then Zukost in 7th. So as you're saying before, yeah, it's extremely easy to go wide and exceed the track limits, especially in turns 5 and 6 at the end of the track. I think those are the easiest, because when you take turn 5 a little too fast, it's easy to go wide into that green tarmac area. And if you touch the flag, basically, or even if you just get all 4 tires off of the curb on the outside of turn 6, it's just like an immediate disqualification of the lap. And then you have to start over. You're already wasted your tires. You got to go pit. So it's kind of like maybe you only really get 2, at most maybe 3 solid hot laps in this 15-minute session.
And of course, some drivers will elect to go back into the pits, get some fresh tires, and that cuts into the qualifying time too. So yeah, about realistically 2-3 actual flying laps in, if you're able to avoid the traffic or get around the traffic super quick, about 2 or 3 laps. Also, shout out to Orwick doing a double race feature for himself as he's substituting. I don't know how he's going to have the stamina to go from like 73 to, 87 laps, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's going to be a test of endurance for sure. Orwick doing a double stint for Maelstrom Motorsports. Maelstrom being in the lead in, I think, Division 2. And I think they're currently sitting in 3rd place in the overall team championship, so they need the points. Orwick more than happy to jump in twice today. But yeah, that is an extreme test of endurance.
I know Kip just messaged me right before the qualifying session went up and was like, hey, are you interested in driving if Ryan's not showing up? I'm like, I would. Kind of already busy, though. It'd be hard to commentate and race at the same time.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. It's funny that you choose to commentate over racing again. I probably would do the same. To be honest.
The Red Bull Ring is one of those where I'm like, I'm okay driving it once for a race. I'm good with the 73 laps that I've done. Leave that to the other guys.
Yep, and then the Division 1 today will be doing 86 laps instead of 73. So that would be a total, if you're running both, that's a total of 159 laps on this short track. That is insane.
I did an hour sprint race. I know an hour sounds like endurance. It really is just a sprint race before, and it was the full length track. It's still a short track, even on the full length. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But after that hour, I was just like, yeah, I don't want to see Red Bull Ring for the rest of the week. Too much chaos that happens over here. I'm good.
So
Of course, we saw that chaos in Division 2. I'm like, yeah, nah, I don't need a repeat of that tonight.
yeah. Well, let's hope that Division 1 will be a cleaner race. And as we were discussing earlier, Toasty has jumped into first place. Willie is driving off of the track limits there. Will likely pick up a penalty. But Toasty jumped into first place. Armsway now second, and Stoles was able to put in a lap to get himself into the provisional third place position.
Of course, these drivers very close in times, so don't let the qualifying fool you. It is very competitive out there. You're seeing R. Nixon, who's currently in fifth, only 0.4 of a second behind your leader, who pulled in almost 49-second flat. So that's just to show the skill level of these drivers tonight.
Yeah, Division 1 is always an extremely tightly packed field. We got Dutra currently in sixth place. As you said earlier, he's only 6 to 7 hundredths of a second behind Nixon. And then Dutra is also only 2 hundredths of a second in front of Ryder, who's only 4 hundredths of a second in front of Kip. So it's just like insane. And then Kip is only 2 hundredths of a second in front of Zukoff. So it's like crazy, crazy tight field. Let's see, further down, Zukoff is currently sitting in ninth place. And then there's no time differential. Oh, there we go. So Anthony Colazzo is only about, just 2 hundredths of a second off of the pace of Zukoff. So top 10 is all within
managing.
like a second, half a second.
Oric even managing to keep pace with these fast guys. He's only 0.2 of a second behind Anthony Colazzo.
Yeah, look at that. So, Orwick currently sitting in 11th. I mean, he's already warmed up, so that might play a factor into his ability to put down a decent time right now during this qualifying session. But we only have, 3 minutes left for everyone to put in their hot laps as we get close to reaching that 15-minute mark. Dinosaur is still struggling to find a time, and Stencil as well. So Stencil currently running for Team.com this week. I think last week he ran in the Division 2 team. I don't remember who he subbed in for.
I don't remember I think it was Whiskers. I think. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong.
Let me
look it up. I want to say it was Whiskers. That's what my gut is telling me.
Oh, it was Team.com.
Oh, okay. So they were subbing for Team.com.
Yep.
Okay. I was like, I can't remember if it was Whiskers or Team.com, and for some reason I had Whiskers on the brain.
Stenzel, no stranger to LRC League, but wasn't able to participate full-time for this one, for the season in particular, but is more than happy to sub in when needed. He's been a crucial team member for some of our team's liveries in the past. He's a really good livery designer. So if you're interested in getting cool liveries made, definitely keep him in mind.
Stoles is on a flying lap right now, it looks like. But stuck behind some lap traffic as well. Dino going into the grass doing some landscaping.
Yeah, the Austrian flags will not be happy with him putting rubber and desecrating their flag on the outside of turn 5 and 6.
I've noticed, speaking of going with rubber on the Austrian flag, if you manage to keep just the left tires in turn 1, you can go just slightly over that that, I think it's a sausage curb is the term, that big yellow like speed bump curb. As long as you only have the left tires and you keep your right side pretty much off the Austrian flag, you're fine. It's when you just get slightly over it enough where it'll count your lap as needing a penalty in track limits.
Yeah.
So like I said, very fine line, but if you can find it, you can gain that extra tenth of a second.
Yeah, and that the margins are so tiny, right? Like even hundredths of a second matter. So at this point, everyone's trying to find that one, like, you know, hundredth of a second, or even maybe a couple thousandths of a second of extra time on their laps to get that pole position. So Toasty right now rounding turns 5 and 6 for one last time, as Dutra kind of just materializes out of nowhere there.
Speaking of aliens, Dutra's got some kind of alien technology to do that. I have no idea what happened.
Yeah, he just spontaneously like appeared there. It's really funny.
It's aliens, man, I'm telling you. It's what it is, it's aliens. And not just the fast ones either.
Yep. Buttons, welcome to chat. Yeans and Beans Studios. Whose racer you're looking? Who were you rooting for?
Oh, if it's Yeens, I know who Yeens is talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Was that were they talking about you?
Yeah, they were talking about me. It'd be like that sometimes, though. I almost missed my own race. I'll be honest. I kind of took a nap, woke up, realized it was like 15 minutes still.
Oh man. There's so many times where I get like really sleepy before a race, and I have to like do like push-ups or something, or like jumping jacks to get me like woken up before actually sitting in the rig. But as soon as the race starts, the adrenaline takes over, and then everything's fine. But sometimes I get kind of concerned ahead of time, where I'm like, oh man, am I too tired for this? And am I gonna last? Is it gonna affect my performance?
It's those pre-race. It's that pre-race. I don't know what the term would be for it, but like that pre-race kind of grogginess of, oh gosh, am I actually going to be able to race? You get into the cockpit and then it's like, okay, all of that's out the window. I'm good to go. My next thought when I'm in the rig is, am I going to survive turn 1?
Yeah, and then the nerves start taking over, and then it's like you kind of pendulum swing to the other side of being like too calm and tired into like kind of nervous and anxious.
But you got to be careful with that anxiousness, because too much and you'll start making mistakes. So then you have to try and reel it back in. Yeah. And it's a very, very delicate balancing act. But during those first few laps, it's very easy to just be like, okay, I'm making mistakes everywhere. This is not good.
All right, so that concludes our qualifying session. Let's take a look at the results one more time. So Toasty takes pole position with a 48.9, the only person to break into the 48s. So we were talking about how close it was earlier, but Toasty has found somewhere like 0.2 of a second ahead of Harm's Way to take that pole position. So Harm's Way in second, and then it's basically just hundredths of a second difference between everyone until like basically 10th position. So Harm's Way takes second, Stoles third, Ryder in fourth. So Ryder with a last minute bump into the top 5, Willie in 5th, R. Nixon in 6th, B. Dutra in 7th, Kip in 8th, Zukost in 9th, Anthony Colazzo in 10th, 11th. We got C. Orwick. So the top 11 are all within a second of our leader. Dinosaur in 12th, and then Stenzel in 13th.
And everyone definitely within less than actually I was going to say less than 2 seconds apart, but they're less than 1.5 seconds apart.
Yeah, super tight.
It's going to make for an interesting race for sure. And with how tight the track is, it's going to make for a very, at the very least, a very, very intense turn 1. But with how short the track is, lap traffic's going to be a thing too. I can kind of see, especially if you get some drivers that are going to be off sequence with their laps and their pit strategy. It's gonna be something.
Yeah, for sure. And then let's take a look at the drivers' standings and the team standings for Division 1 really quickly. So Stoles leads the championship with 92 points. We talked about this earlier. So Harm's Way second, Toasty in third. Harm's Way and Toasty separated by only 2 points. Dutra and D-Slove fourth and fifth, separated by 1 point with 52 and 51. Then we got Colazzo, Ryder, and Willie. Beto in 9th, Zukost in 10th. Kip in 11th, Dinosaur 12th, Nixon 13th, Ryan Higgins in 14th. We got Bishop in 15th, Ads 16th. Bergold 17th, Lugie 18th, M. Stenzel 19th, and Orwick 20th. So Stenzel and Orwick making their debut for Division 1 tonight. Invictus is currently in the lead for the Division 1 team standings with 122 points. That's only 4 points ahead of Diddley Squat Racing in second place with 118. Whisker Warriors Performance with 103 in third place. Chama Racing in fourth. Maelstrom Motorsports in fifth. And we got Team.com in sixth, and then Toro Bravo in seventh. So we went over the team overall standings the last division, but we can go over them again. So, and this doesn't count the results from the Division 2 race, but it's extremely close. Diddley Squat Racing, Maelstrom Motorsports in first and second, separated by 1 point. Invictus and Whisker Warriors separated by 3 points, all within 8 points of each other. And then we got Team.com and Toro Bravo Racing.
It's coming down to the wire in those point standings, and I know teams are trying to find some extra oomph in these last 2 weeks to get across and get a really good finish in the standings.
All right, so we are going under the green flag very soon, and Toasty will lead us into our opening lap. He gets a good start. Harm's Way as well. Stoles, looks like everyone is very clean at the moment. There's not very many slow starts or anything. Not many too many battles going into turn 1. Let's see here. Toasty has Harm's Way fairly close to him going into turn 2, but nothing particularly threatening at the moment. Stoles looking at the inside of Harm's Way a little bit there at the exit of turn 2, but doesn't make anything of it. We got a clean field, and let's see, Nixon there under attack by what looks like Dutra going into turn 5. Not many changes in position. I think everyone has, in the top 8 positions, have maintained their position going to lap 1. Dutra there makes a move on the inside. Sorry there, Kaido. He makes a look at the inside into turn 1, and will he make it stick? So Nixon tries to make the outside as wide as possible, but is unfortunately passed by Dutra going into turn 2.
Our Ryder decided to cut. Oh, and that's into the wall. I was gonna say Ryder going to go get some grass cut, but don't know if that was just the car going understeer or if that was something happened with the steering on that car. But into the wall and all the way back into 13th, our Ryder. Looks like he just. Oh, I think I know what happened. I think he was going towards the full length track, kind of like what I did early on into the race.
Oh, yeah. Like just a lapse in just concentration, just going in autopilot. Oh man, that happens. Yeah,
I was
like,
gonna
where he's
say
just,
before.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that he's like probably just kind of like chilling until he gets to, you know, where turn 2 and 3 are in the normal track. But like the turn 2 here in the short track comes at you very quickly if you're not prepared for it.
I will be honest, it is very easy because you'll start to tunnel in and you'll forget there's a wall there that's blocking off the rest of the normal track, and very easy to do that, especially when it kind of blends into the background. So I can see where Ryder did that. I was going to say originally, like everyone keeping it single file, not wanting to take any risks early on, and then Dutra goes and makes me a liar. So
Yeah, well, that's just Dutra. Dutra has some uncanny abilities to just find pace and manage to pass people anywhere. So that's just the nature of Dutra. But as we talk about Dutra, so Dutra now second clear ahead of Nixon, and now looking to hunt down Willie going out of turn 3. Ooh, he goes and potentially exceeds track limits at turn 4. Let's see if we'll pick up a penalty. It looked really close at the exit there. It doesn't look like he picked up a penalty. I think he would have gotten it by now if he did exceed track limits.
sometimes it'll throw you a curveball. There's been times where I exceeded track limits and it didn't tell me for half a lap. So. But I think it looks like Dutra's clear this go around. R. Nixon flashing the headlights at us a little bit, and looks like Nixon went really wide there. Kind of missed the turn in for turn 1 for a second. It looked like.
Dutra making himself known to Willie in his rearview mirror, putting his car on the inside line into the entrance of turn 2, and Willie does not flinch and maintains his line. You can see the tail end of Dutra's car go sliding out just a hair on the entrance of turn 5 and gets a good exit on turn 6. Goes side by side with Willie down the front straight. Is he going to make it stick into turn 1? Is he even going to attempt the pass? He tries to outbrake Willie. They go side by side in turn 1, and Dutra goes over that sausage curb. Looks stable. But Willie picks up a half a second penalty, potentially for exceeding track limits on the outside of the exit of turn 1. And Dutra completes the pass. But Willie now under attack by Nixon and will surely get passed by Willie when he serves his penalty coming up very soon.
It looks like Willie trying to swerve very quickly to the right to try and give everyone else the racing line as he served that penalty. Very easy to do that if you're trying to defend on the outside of turn 1, because you'll get that those right side tires just off the curb. And the race stewards at Red Bull Ring don't like that.
So Collazo right up on the bumper of Zukost, who I think just rear-ended Willie a little bit on the exit of turn 1, but I think everything looks good still. Whenever you get bumped like that, you don't get any penalties for exceeding track limits, I think. But Anthony Collazo finding himself under attack by Zukost now, going down the back straight into turn 5. But this is like a 3-4-way battle for this, sixth position. We got Anthony Collazo, Zukost, Orwick, and Kip joining in on the battle for this.
Everyone's saying, hey, let me have a piece of this action. I want in. As staying really close together, and it looks like maybe Zukost was going to peek in on the inside of Willie there, but no, decides to tuck in and keep it clean through turn 1, not wanting to take any risks. Looks like he's going to try and take a peek, though. Orwick, though, slides up into 8th and is ready to challenge Willie for 7th.
Yeah, great pass by Orwick. jumping up from that second division, now already putting the pressure on a ton of people. And then Willie had to serve another penalty, it looks like, and jumped off the racing line there for a very brief amount of time. Zukas now sitting in 8th place, being passed by, it was Collazo first, and then Orwick, and then now Kip looking to potentially make an overtake. But Zukas says no and is coming back up onto Orwick, looking to retake that 7th position. And he makes contact with Orwick on the exit of turn 1, and looks like he slows down to give back the position for his sportsmanship to avoid any sort of penalties.
It's a good job by Orwick to save that car. I know a lot of myself, sometimes I'll find it difficult to try and recover the car. I think that's one of the things, the new physics update, and I know we're still talking about it like 2 weeks after it's been released, but genuinely I do feel it's easier to save the car with the new physics update than it was before. So, but just a testament, Orwick, a Division 2 driver, showing his grit in Division 1, able to save the car and keep on going like nothing happened.
Yeah, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it was the extra heat in his tires is preventing him from keeping his position. It looks like him and Stenzel maybe have a little bit of contact at the exit of turn 1. So Orwick dropping down into the positions, being overtaken by Dinosaur, as well as Kip in the last couple laps. Let's take a look here. I think Stenzel might have been just on his own. Yeah, I think Stenzel just lost the rear end of the car there on his own.
It's easy to do. I know it looked like there was maybe a little bit of correction to try and avoid hitting Orwick too, because Orwick looked like he was getting back on the track, and maybe just a little bit of an overcorrection to avoid some potential contact, and caused Stenzel to lose the rear end that way.
Dinosaur taking a quick peek at Kip's inside. Just trying to force an error from Kip, keeping him on his toes. And then it looks like Zukas made his way around Willie. Or no, sorry, Willie has caught back up to Zukas. Zukas was ahead of Willie due to Willie's penalties in the previous lap. But he's having a hard time with the car. He loses the back end on the exit of turn 5 and is unable to make the turn around 6. And again, loses position to Kip and potentially Dinosaur coming up into turn 1.
I know that left front, when it gets down to about that quarter of a bar, it is very easy to lose it. And we see Willie going and losing it, saving it though, and avoiding a full spin. But very easy to lose the car when that left front is almost worn out. It doesn't even have to be close to the bottom. It can just be a quarter of the way down from experience, and you just feel the car want to slide all the time. I think we're going to get our first green flag stops here pretty soon.
And so back up with our leaders, we've got Toasty and Harm's Way pretty close together. And then I think Anthony Collazo has made his way up right behind Dutra, who's looks like potentially struggling with his tires. So Collazo with a lot more pace than Dutra at the moment. And I think maybe within the next couple of laps or so, we'll start seeing our first round of pit stops, as you mentioned before. But none of the leaders decide to take any just yet. All right, sorry, kind of.
Oh, I was just gonna say I see someone on pit road, but I'm not sure who. Which is gonna make, if the leaders haven't pit yet, that's gonna make some lap traffic for someone to catch up to.
Yeah, it only really takes one pit stop for a car to already start to create traffic for our leaders. And with all the different strategies today, we're going to see a pretty large mix of just kind of like a spread of strategies and kind of track placement as the race goes on. But Dutra right now living the remaining life of that front left tire at currently lap 14. I wonder if he'll decide to take his pit stop this lap. Nope, decides to stay out. With the new GT's physics, it's incredibly hard to maintain any sort of semblance of a competitive lap time when your tires reach that 0% of wear. So I'm actually really surprised Dutra is running this tire down to the absolute minimum.
I'm surprised that Dutra's able to keep the line through turn 1. Not really so much there in turn 2. Looks like just kind of was late on the braking zone. But turn 1, that curb there, kind of scary when you have tire wear like that. But Dutra making it work, proving why he's one of the best drivers in LRC right now.
All right, so we got Toasty into the pits. He's pitting with a considerable amount of tires left on the front left, since I don't know, maybe like 5-10%. Instead of running it down all the way, he decides to pit early, and Harm's Way decides to continue on the same set of tires, and as does Stoles, going for a full 16 laps before pitting. So we'll see if the undercut by Toasty will be effective, because he'll have he'll have a new set of tires. Oh, and as I say that, Stoles gets very, very, very wide into turn 5 and almost loses control of the car. And I think this is where the undercut is going to be advantageous, because you got new tires, fresh tires, and then you got essentially a clean lap before the rest of the people running have to take an in lap on very, very dead tires. It's an extremely slow in lap.
Looks like Harm's Way is getting ready to exit the pit. Stoll's currently the leader, but I'm imagining he's probably want to come in for some fresh tires pretty soon. If not this lap, then definitely next. Although after that kind of a slide, I would imagine. Yep, there it is. Stoll's coming in for some fresh tires, saying, "Hey, the sliding was kind of fun. Let's not do that."
Yeah, let's not potentially ruin the race. Oh, and then Dinosaur gets a little bit of a bump from Toasty out of the exit of turn 5 as he tries to enter the pits. That could have been potentially disastrous for him to get bumped out of the pit opportunity. But Toasty, so Harm's Way rejoins our race, less than a second behind Toasty. So the two have been essentially just net 0 swaps in position, with Toasty pitting a lap earlier. So the undercut didn't necessarily work out as advantageous compared to Harm's Way, but it did prove to be advantageous against the rest of the field. So Stoles, for instance, with his pit stop, has ended up in 4th place, a whole actually 10 seconds behind Toasty. So quite a big jump there.
And Dutra going really wide there. I'm not quite sure why exactly. Maybe just to give some extra space, or just kind of getting the tires warmed up again a little bit. But Stoll's taking that 3rd place. Arnixon getting around Dutra as well to inherit that 4th position. And the battle for first heating up with Harm's Way staying right on Toasty's bumper.
Yeah, Harm's Way sticking to Toasty within that half-second gap there. He gets a pretty good run off of that turn 6 exit. I don't know if it will be enough to make an attempt to overtake into turn 1. Oh, so he does. He goes in and brakes late in turn 1 and then he overshoots the apex, and Toasty gets the over-under to keep the lead out of turn 1 into turn 2. Great attempt there by Harm's Way to take the lead, but was not enough to maintain it.
Very, very, very good attempt by Harm's Way there. That is a move I would not try, but you know, Harm's Way confident that he could have been able to pull it off. Maybe just a little bit more on the brake, just to slow the car down just enough. Maybe might have been able to pull it off, but not giving up quite yet. Still very close behind Toasty. Probably going to line up for another overtake attempt in the next couple of corners.
Yeah, I think Toasty was smart there to not defend in turn 1 and let Harm's Way take the inside, do that over under. I think taking the inside of turn 1 just is a poor setup for you to get any sort of exit speed onto that straight into turn 2. So Toasty letting them take the inside, letting them overshoot the corner, and getting better exit speed was a very, very smart move. And I think it will be challenging for Harm's Way or anyone to really overtake into turn 1 unless if they kind of break almost like earlier on the inside line and kind of park it on the apex to not allow any sort of over-under from the car on the outside. I think that might be the optimal strategy there if you're trying to overtake into turn 1.
Meanwhile, the two leaders now with lap traffic up ahead, it's going to be up to Toasty to try and get around them quickly. Otherwise, they might risk getting held up and letting Harm's Way have an opportunity to overtake for first. So far, everything's all still clean and good. Harm's Way closing the gap slowly and slowly. Words are hard tonight.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'm actually trying to eat my dinner like between like moments of speaking, so I'm just like shoving food in my mouth like every like couple of seconds. These
that was me last week. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie. That was me last week. As Toasty's still on the bumper now, trying to stay within less than 0.3 of a second, closing in on Toasty. Meanwhile, that lap traffic up ahead, slowly taking up more of the front windshield, and the two leaders probably trying to think how they're going to get around this lap traffic to continue their fight, or even use the lap traffic to their advantage to widen the gap.
I think the tricky thing about battling with like this situation is that every time you're going to try to make an attempt to overtake, you got to be hard on the brakes and hard on your tires. And any attempt like that is going to just deplete your tire wear very quickly. So you only really get like a couple chances of an overtake. And then if you end up having that overtake, you have to defend from, you know, the car to maintain the position. So it becomes kind of like a tricky game where, yeah, you're fighting between first and second to get, you know, that first place position, but then you're also slowing both of yourselves down and allowing someone like Stolz to get back into the race, who's now only really 6 seconds behind, who was previously like, what, 10 seconds behind from...
Yeah, about 10 and a half seconds.
So he's cut down like 4 seconds just from his stint so far.
I know both these guys are probably also thinking about trying to save their tires as well. Probably thinking they can save the tires more than the other guy and try to either stay out longer or just have that extra speed so that way they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, right now I'm just scanning the mini map to see if there's anyone who's got any closer battles. Oh no, and Harm's Way loses control of the car, and oh my goodness, he places that car right next to Toasty, almost like by accident. But oh my god, that'd been really funny if he like made an overtake by losing the control of the car like that. Extremely risky. but I'm glad that didn't lead to any sort of incident or ruin his race there.
That's it's kind of like how in Division 2 we were in the drivers chat. We kind of someone had gone and drifted into the pits, and it looked like it was on purpose, but no, it was a complete accident. And Harmsway almost doing an overtake via Tokyo Drift, and it almost looked like it was going to be an intentional Tokyo Drift into the lead, but more than likely Harmsway, like, I'm just glad I did not lose the car.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, that's still allowing Stoles to really catch up. We were saying not even like half a lap ago, 4 seconds. Stoles is now almost like a little over 4 seconds behind the leaders now.
Oh yeah, he cut down 2 seconds from a couple laps before. Yeah, so the battling between Harmsway and Toasty is definitely going to allow Stoles to get back into this fight. They decided to not work together. But I mean, this could be a situation where Harmsway is just pacing like slightly faster than Toasty right now, but doesn't have quite enough to make the overtake. And then now also, I guess if you look at the difference between tire wear, they're pretty good in terms of tire wear. Harmsway has been taking care of that front left. It's almost about the same amount of tire wear as Toasty's front left. So they are very, very close in how well they're managing their tires. Toasty goes a little wide into the entrance of turn 2, leaves a little bit of room for Harmsway, but then has the inside of turn 3, and Stoles continues to cut down on that gap. He is almost 2 seconds behind Harmsway now.
I'm kind of interested to see what Stoles' tires are at right now, seeing if maybe they're in a better condition than both Toasty. Oh, they're a little bit.
Yeah, I think they're significantly better. Maybe like a lap or two, yeah.
Yeah, that could be why Stoles is also tracking them down very, very quickly. His tires are just so much more fresh and not as worn down as the two. These two have been fighting for so long that Stoles has been able to take it a little easy, save his tires, and is closed in on him now, less than 2 seconds.
Oh, Harmsway gets a little squirrely on the exit of turn 2 into the entrance of turn 3 and loses quite a bit of time. He'll find himself now under pressure by Stoles, who is now the same distance away from him as Harmsway is from Toasty.
Stoles also with the fastest lap at the moment of 48.9. So keep an eye out. Stoles has got some kind of knowledge on the track that's giving him that extra tenth. As now less than a second behind Harmsway, almost a half a second behind Harmsway. And we're seeing our second round of pit stops. Kip Dunkel going into the pits right now. I know I saw Dutra earlier, and the battle for second still just continuing to heat up right now. And we'll probably see some pits here soon. I'm almost thinking Stoles is gonna, and there's someone went sideways on the track. There's a yellow somewhere, or someone was entering the pits. It's hard to tell.
No, maybe it was both. Maybe they spun out and then ended up in the pits. All right, so Stoles got a good exit out of turn 6 and has a little bit of a run onto Harmsway going down the front straight. Cuts the gap down to less than half a second now. Toasty is probably very grateful for Stoles at this moment, now that Harmsway has fallen a little bit behind Toasty and is now in the clutches of Stoles. That'll give Toasty a little bit of a break.
Of course, we're seeing more people get into the pit, so it's going to be interesting to see if Toasty's going to feel like they need to pit soon, or if with all this battling going on, if they'll decide to stay out and try to keep their track position a little longer. And it looks like they're staying out another lap. Meanwhile, Stoles staying within half a second behind Harmsway, and both of them less than a second behind Toasty.
It's an interesting situation because Kip, I think, is that Kip? No, who is that? Yeah, so there's Kip. So Kip is on fresh tires, as is Zukost. And they are probably going to be able to lap faster than the leaders at a certain point in the next couple of laps due to the difference in tire wear. So Kip will either have to find a clean way to get around. Oh, so there we go. That kind of solves itself. So Toasty and Harmsway dive into the pits, and Stoles now, with the advantage on tire wear, will be able to do another lap as he takes the lead of this race.
I almost want to say Stoles may be able to do an extra 2 laps with how well they've been able to preserve their tires. The undercut for Toasty didn't seem to really work out as well as maybe he thought, because Harmsway's with him as well. And remember, Toasty pitted 1 lap before Harmsway the last go around. Yep. So maybe the undercut not quite as strong on this track as some of the others might have thought.
Yeah, I agree. I think I initially thought it was going to be a lot stronger, but it looks like it's not that much different. So Toasty now exiting the pits, and Harmsway, again, still less than a second behind him. So the two exit the pits very close together. And if you noticed, Toasty entered the pits, he had 14 liters of fuel, and Harmsway had 9. So Toasty had been saving a little bit of fuel throughout his stint, but it's kind of inconsequential because 5 liters of fuel is really only half a second in the pits. I mean, that maybe not consequential because that actually might make the difference in this race because they're so close together. So yeah, who knows, right? Maybe that might actually make the difference between first and second, seeing that this race is so tight.
It could also mean the difference between one more extra pit stop at the end, or being able to make it all the way to the end. I know I was trying to save fuel during the Division 2 race at the end there because I was starting to worry about my own fuel levels, and I was like, I don't want to have to pit one more time and run out of fuel like I did at a high speed ring. Could be what Toasty's thinking about as well, trying to save some fuel, as well as the tires. Maybe not so much the tires as they are the fuel. Maybe they think they can make the tires stretch out longer than the fuel. But Toasty with a good strategy. It looks like Stoles in the pits right now, getting some extra fuel as well.
Right, so Stoles currently exiting the pits. We'll see where he ends up relative to Toasty and Harmsway. So Toasty and Harmsway already passed Stoles, it looks like. So Stoles actually lost quite a bit of time in that pit stop, but also took a significant more amount of fuel, which is an interesting choice. So he refueled up to 3/4 of a tank, and looks like Toasty and Harmsway went up to just over half a tank. So that accounts for the difference in fuel that accounts for the couple of seconds that Stoles has gained behind Harmsway and Toasty. Sorry, lost. A couple seconds lost behind Harmsway and Toasty.
And of course, Stoles was about 2 or 3 laps behind Toasty and Harmsway's pit, so gonna have way fresher tires than the both of them. Just gotta get those tires up to temperature now. Seems most of the field's kind of spread out now. There's a little bit of a battle here and there, but still most of them are about half a second, a little higher than that, as our battle for first is still probably the closest battle on track at the moment for position, with Harmsway looking behind Toasty less than half a second behind, and there in the camera, not too far behind, is Stoles.
Yeah, so it actually looks like Stoles lost up a little bit of time, maybe due to an error or something, because he's now at 3.7 seconds, and he was only around the 2-second mark when he initially left the pits. I mean, the other thing too is that these cars are they're having to navigate through traffic, so it's possible, excuse me, that Stoles had to get around a lapped car to get closer to Harmsway and Stoles. Harmsway and Toasty, excuse me.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a tight battle between the first three right now. Anthony Colazzo about 16 seconds behind Stoles at the moment, and Zukost almost 10 seconds behind him for your top 5.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. The top 3 are definitely making themselves separate from the rest of the field, and even the gap between Zukost and Anthony Colazzo is opened up quite a bit. Although Anthony Colazzo, he doesn't have to pit anytime soon. I think it was, was it? I think it was Orwick. No, Nixon was right behind. Okay, so it looks like Nixon went to go take a pit stop because Nixon was right behind Anthony Colazzo the last couple laps. And so he recently went into the pits, got new tires and more fuel. Oh, we have
it looks like there's a bit of a bump.
So Nixon picked up damage, and Orwick there waiting to rejoin safely. I don't know if that will be grounds for an incident or a VSC. Doesn't look like it so far.
It looks like it's still green at the moment.
Yeah, I think we're in the clear.
Almost halfway through, and they've kept it incident free for the entirety of this race. So actually, as we say that, commentators curse. You gotta love it.
Timing.
Almost halfway with a caution-free race, but looks like after reevaluating the circumstances, that the VSC has been called. The teams are all going to bunch up together. Of course, we're slowing it down a lot this race. Instead of the normal speed that we go to on the road courses, it's going to be closer to 60, 65 miles per hour for your pacing laps, and then when the formation lap happens, it's going to drop down to 45.
All right, so Toasty goes and dives into the pits. So does Harmsway, taking advantage of the safety car procedure. And Stoles decides to stay out. So I was actually really curious up until that point whether or not Toasty and Harmsway would take a pit, because their tires were still pretty good, and they were just marginally worse than what Stoles has. So Stoles decides to stay out. And I think, I don't know whether or not he is going to get an advantage out of this, or if Toasty and Harmsway will. They're kind of right on the cusp of making it worth take a pit stop during the safety car procedure.
It'll be interesting, and it looks like we've got 2 cars that have decided not to pit. They're going to go and pass Stoles to get their lap back. Because if you don't know, under the safety car procedures, drivers have the ability to either pit, or if they're a lap down, get their lap back, but not pit. If they decide one or the other, that's pretty much the only time. And I thought I saw contact back there, but that could have just been Gran Turismo doing Gran Turismo things.
Yeah, so what's interesting is that Stoles decided to not take a pit, and now Toasty and Harmsway are just right behind Stoles now again, thanks to the safety car procedures and allowing the cars that were lapped to unlap themselves. So Stoles definitely lost out on this exchange. I think it would have been worth, it depends, right? I think it potentially would have been worth pitting with Toasty and Harmsway and maintaining that 3rd place position. But the downside here is that it would have put him on equal footing with the tires and the fuel once again. So like this, the sort of advantage that Stoles had been building with tire wear and fuel had been kind of accumulating over the course of the race, and then the safety car has kind of just nullified that entirely. And it's actually kind of reversed it now because Stoles is on older tires and Toasty and Harm's Way have fresh tires, but Stoles has decided to take track position, so maybe he can keep both of them behind long enough for them to wear their tires out as fast as Stoles' tires are currently worn out to.
As I think we've got one more lap to go, it seems like. There's a few stragglers in the back that are looking to catch up to the field. And what's interesting about that too is the ones that get their lap back, they don't pit. So all these guys ahead of them that are on those fresher tires, they still have the old tire deficit that they got to go through too.
Yeah. I think
As
for
it looks
lapped
like
cars, it's often probably a better strategy to unlap yourself because you essentially get a full lap worth back, which is like what, 40 some seconds, 49 seconds back, and then a pit stop is like worth maybe 40 seconds or so. So it's marginally better, but depending on how recently you've taken a pit stop, it's more worth it to take your lap back than it is to take a pit stop.
I would say the only time really that you don't want to take your lap back if you're a lap down is either if you've got damage or if you're at the absolute limit of your tires and need to pit. Otherwise, I'm completely with you. Take the lap, get the lap back, get back on that same lap as the leaders. You can get that. If your tire management is fine, you can still keep pace, and you can decide during the green flag at the next lap to pit or not.
Okay, so we're gearing up for the restart, our double file restart procedure. Stoles on the inside, ready to restart this race. And this could be potentially way more chaotic than our initial start due to being this double file. So Stoles takes us underway under green flag, gets a good start, pulls a little bit away from Toasty. Toasty now under attack by what looks like Harm's Way on the inside next to Dutra. And then there's a little bit of contact, but it looks like overall everyone got out through clean. Oh, no, as I say that, Zukos goes into the grass and is able to keep it on track though, no damage. Oh no, look, Harm's Way, oh no. Oh, Harm's Way looks like he went wide or something. Maybe got pushed off the track. I don't know what happened to Toasty. So Willie right now is in first. I don't know where Toasty went. Toasty is in 10th right now. Let's take a look at the replay. So there's Harm's Way in the lead. Oh, and he just understeers off the track. And I don't know where Toasty was up until that point. Maybe Toasty had spun out. Oh, it looks like
Yeah.
Toasty, yeah, he went out into the...
Toasty got bumped by someone, or Harm's Way goes wide, Orwick goes super wide. Very chaotic restart there.
Yeah, that's wild. Okay, so wow, that changes things a lot. So Willie now the current safety car lead, bringing our cars around the track. Anthony Colazzo in second, looking really nice with very little tire wear and 3/4 of a tank. Same with Kip. Dinosaur as well in a good position. Zukos, Nixon, all the cars that are out have really good like tires and fuel. Toasty back out in 8th position. Harm's Way in 9th, so both of them still neck and neck with each other. And Stoles somehow got caught up in that as well. So Stoles is behind Toasty and Harmsway, kind of like preserving the 1, 2, 3 positions that they had going through the second stint of the race.
It's definitely going to be an interesting start to when we get back to green flag. We've got the 3 that were looking like the dominant force at the start of the race and in kind of the midfield. You've got as it looks like Dutra's disconnected for some reason, maybe some internet issues on Dutra's end. It's gonna be chaotic at the start. Some guys may get some really good runs and may decide to stick their nose at the inside before turn 1, and it can be. I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited for this restart.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for the second half of this race to see how Toasty, Harmsway, and Stoles try to make their way through the field while battling each other. So like, they're either gonna have to kind of put their differences aside and work together to get back up the field, because if they keep fighting with each other, they're not gonna be competitive enough to cut through the field. So we'll see how they decide to kind of carry themselves the rest of this race.
And the tire wear is not all that bad on the ones that stayed out for this safety car, so they might be able to use their tire life to an advantage somewhat, but at the start it's going to seem like they're not really going to be able to get that jump as long as no one spins the tires or anything on this restart. Getting back to the start finish line, and away we go under green flag again. Willie going to lead the field.
Yeah, so Willie gets a good start, but Anthony Collazo finds himself next to Kip into turn 1, and they get through cleanly. So Kip there now side by side with Dinosaur. Dinosaur on the outside, slightly ahead of Kip, but Kip has the inside into turn 2. Oh, and Dinosaur keeps it tight and on the outside and makes it stick, actually, defending that third position. Or actually maybe taking that third position. I can't remember if Dinosaur started ahead of Kip or not. Now Kip's in trouble from Zukos as well, so Kip gets a bad exit out of turn 4 and finds himself on the inside of turn 5. And, oh yeah, and loses out to that position against Kip. And then now Nixon is looking for potentially getting through as well. But I think now things are starting to settle down a little bit as we start spreading out just a little bit.
Nixon going a little wide there to turn 1. And it's going to get Toasty a little closer to try and carve his way back up through the field. Looks like he's going to take the position. As we've got, who is that in the red car? That looks like Ryder going. Yep. Yeah, Ryder going to stay ahead of Harmsway for now. Harmsway going to try and work his way around.
Yeah, so now the battle between Toasty, Harmsway, and Stoles is all about racecraft. So Toasty, being extremely good at carving through the field, has already made his way up to 6th position, passing Nixon and Ryder, and Harmsway and Stoles having trouble due to the battle that's going on between Nixon and Ryder as well. So Nixon goes wide, gets passed by Ryder and Harmsway, as well as Stoles. I think Stenzel there got into the inside of Nixon on the entry there, backed out a little bit, allowed him to recover, so that was good.
Looks like a little bit of contact, and I saw someone with a penalty a second ago. Not quite sure who, but Harmsway going to try and get around Ryder here. Kind of staying behind. Ryder getting a little squirrely on the exit of turn 6 there. Manages to keep it under control. And we're staying green at lap 50. Harmsway looking on the inside here for turn 2. Gonna try and stay side by side. Looks to make the move. Still there, maybe a little bit of contact. Going for the over-under. Decides to tuck back in. Nope, he's going to peek on the outside, on the right-hand side there, into the straight. And looks like he's going to try and finally make the move work into turn 5. No, still going to be side by side. Not entirely clear.
Great defense there by Ryder. He gets a little bit of contact from Harm's Way on the exit at turn 6. Maybe causes him to lose the back end a little bit, makes him vulnerable to Stoles, but Ryder there potentially not seeing Stoles on the inside, tried to look to the inside of Harm's Way to turn 1. Stoles backing out from that position. That could have been potentially dangerous. Anytime you have like a three-way battle going into turn 1, it's extremely, extremely risky. So Stoles for now decides to back out a little bit. And Ryder now behind Harm's Way, but Toasty has made his way past Zukos. So Harm's Way, he wants to be competitive against Toasty. He's going to have to catch up with them fairly quickly. He's already lost several seconds due to that battle between Ryder and Nixon and his own battle with Ryder. So Toasty already making his way up. Oh, and Anthony Collazo gets wide on the track there onto the grass, and Toasty gets by as well. So that's a freebie for Toasty. And it's going to be something that's going to cost Harm's Way a lot more time to get through. So Toasty kind of running away with it, actually. Already up into 4th position. Only 5 seconds ahead, only 5 seconds from the leader, Willie, and with way better tires. So Willie's going to have to make a pit stop within the next couple of laps. As well, Dinosaur has a little bit of a little bit more tire wear left, and Kip as well. So Toasty will have to wait till they get a little bit more depleted. But I think Toasty is actually in a really good position at the moment.
Toasty definitely with the pace, already going to be on the back bumper of Kip, and Dinosaur. Willie probably going to be pitting here soon though, because not only is their tire wear looking pretty low, their fuel is starting to run out as well. So I imagine that's going to be in the next lap, if not this lap. Meanwhile, Toasty kind of filling up that rear view mirror of Kip, making his presence known. Trying to probably get around Kip to take that 3rd place spot, and just try to pull away from Harm's Way and Stoles even more.
Yeah, Toasty's got to be careful though too, as these 2 cars ahead of him start to wear their tires down. They're going to be less predictable, potentially more risky to overtake, but also certainly easier to overtake if they don't have as good grip. So Toasty there compromising his line just a little bit to get a better exit out of turn 3, but not quite enough to get a run into the exit of, looks like Dinosaur took a penalty, so another freebie for Toasty there. Toasty getting I gotta say, Toasty is getting very lucky in terms of track position. He's able to pick up these positions with no extra time lost, and it's going to be time that Harm's Way and Stoles will potentially have to waste a ton of time getting past these cars. That's of course if like the same thing doesn't happen to them.
I'd like to say congratulations, Kip, for taking that lead lap and leading the lap when Willie went into pits. Although now you got to deal with Toasty on your bumper, and Toasty's probably pretty eager to get that lead back from you. So enjoy that lead while you can, because Toasty is on a warpath right now.
Yeah, Toasty is never not eager to take the lead from you if he's behind you and you're in 1st place. So good luck to Kip. Kip's got, looks maybe, 2 or 3 laps in him with the tires left. Toasty there still with a significant amount of tire life on the front left, and fuel as well. So Harm's Way now up into 5th place. Actually 4th as I say that, overtakes Zukos into turn 1. Zukos very close behind. Harm's Way taking the inside to defend, against any potential comeback that Zukas could have. And Stolz actually is very close to Zukas as well, looking to make that overtake, potentially to the back side, the back straight, but kind of loses the car a little bit on the exit of turn 3, and that mistake will cost him an opportunity to overtake Zukas into turn 5.
Looks like he almost got into the back end of Zukas there for a second. And Stoll is going to get around Zukas, and Kip now taking his pit. Toasty back in the lead.
Yeah, so Zukas is struggling with his tires. That's why he had such a bad line out of turn 5. Allowed Stolz to just go right past him. This will certainly be a slow lap for Zukas, considering his tire wear. He's having trouble turning the car at turn 2. Ryder there also not particularly any better in terms of tire wear, but certainly not struggling as hard as Zukas. And then we kind of have like a 3-way battle here between Nixon and Orwick and Stenzel, I believe? Yes, Stenzel. So Nixon takes the inside into turn 5. Orwick doesn't concede the position. Oh, so they all go dive into the pits together. Oh,
that one could have been disastrous, guys. Yeah. Thanks for leaving a little bit of a gap there. I was a little worried that Orwick and Nixon weren't gonna give each other some space to turn into pit road for a second there. Yeah. Ryder gonna take that 5th place position though, and Stoll's still working his way, going to try and actually does get past Dino and manages to stay on the back bumper of Harm's Way.
All right, so we got our 1, 2, 3 from before before the safety car, and this time Toasty has created a 4-second lead ahead of Harm's Way. He finds himself under attack by Stolz, who managed to save his tires to be almost actually better than Harm's Way now. So Stolz doing some intense tire management, and Toasty decides to take a pit. So depending on how well these two save their tires, they could potentially make up time like they did in the first stint compared to Toasty and cut into that 4-second lead whenever they exit the pit stops.
I've also looked at our lap counter. We're getting close to the end of this here with lap 60 close approaching, with Harm's Way looking like they're going to have to pit here soon. Their fuel's starting to run a little low. Willie going to take that 3rd position, Toasty in 4th again, and Stoll's probably going to think about taking the lead here in the next lap or 2.
Yeah, so Willie is in an interesting position. He's kind of offset in terms of strategy between Toasty, Harm's Way, and Stolz, but I think he still might be a contender for the podium. And I'm not exactly sure if that's like the lead, like first position in contention for the win of the race, but it's interesting nonetheless. So Willie is currently 4 seconds ahead of Toasty, and not necessarily like that much into his stint. So I'm curious as to how the rest of his strategy is going to play out, and if it will give him an advantage going into the final stage of this race. As I say that, he goes wide. As I say that, he goes wide and will likely pick up a penalty. We'll see.
I think he's just managed to be penalty free. Meanwhile, Stolz is actually surprising me and taking a pit early compared to Harm's Way. I thought Harm's Way was gonna go into the pits first, but Stolz deciding that they want to get those fresh tires earlier than later, probably because we're at lap 61, wanting to maybe just have one more pit stop before the end of the race, and deciding to go off sequence just a little bit.
So Kip was actually able to successfully undercut Stolz in the last lap. So Kip now is net 4th position and only less than a second behind Toasty. So Kip, whatever his strategy was, is definitely working. but he's now at a tire disadvantage for the rest of the stint. So kind of sacrificed a little bit of tire wear for track position, and hopefully he'll be able to keep that position by kind of placing himself behind Toasty and maybe sticking with him for the rest of the race. We will see. So Harm's Way comes out of the pits in 8th place. So he ended up losing a ton of positions, but he also took a lot more fuel, almost double the amount of fuel than everyone else. That's maybe equivalent to like 4 or 5 seconds.
I'm wondering if Harm's Way thinks he can save the tires enough to last the rest of the race, or maybe just deciding to take all the fuel that he needs for the rest of the race and not fuel on the next pit stop. Could be that. Either way, that safety car that happened earlier, it's changed a lot of these drivers' strategies for sure, and honestly, anything's a coin flip right now.
Yeah, so it's possible Harm's Way decided to fuel now so that in the event there is a safety car, he will only have to change tires. And that will potentially boost him up into track position much faster. Because if everyone else takes a pit stop as well, but has to take fuel, that could give him the track position that he needs to finish the race out in first. So I think that's a really good strategy. But the only downside is that he now has to get through Anthony Collazo, Nixon, and Ryder to get back up to where Stoles is. So Toasty has found himself now really close behind Willie and will be fighting for the net lead very soon. So Willie is actually struggling to keep the pace and is running through his tires very quickly. And we'll have to serve this half-second penalty, so that will clear Toasty for the lead, the net lead of the race. So Toasty now finally back into the lead of this race after that safety car incident. Maybe what, 30, no, maybe 20 to 15 laps ago. Quite the
20
journey.
laps sounds right. Kip still managing to keep pace, and Stoll's kind of looking behind Kip at the moment, ready to take that third place podium position from him. Kip going maybe a little bit wide there. Stoll's looking on the inside, getting ready for turn 2. Looks to make the move stick and does inherit third place. Getting ready to probably trying to get back to Toasty to challenge for the lead again. Kip not falling too far behind though. Going to try and use the tow from Stoll's car to stay in close contention with the leaders, and we're starting to wind down on these laps here.
Yeah, so 20 laps to go, or sorry, 22 laps to go. 21 laps to go. So Harm's Way now, yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what his decision was around taking more fuel. The caveat to taking more fuel is that it makes your car heavier, and it makes you burn through your tires faster because you have more weight in the car. I don't know if that was a mistake or maybe, yeah, it's just an interesting decision. I'm trying to figure out exactly why he did it. The only thing, again, like the only thing I could think of is the event of a safety car, and he's thinking the only way he could potentially win this race is if a safety car does happen and he has less fuel to take on in the pit lane, and that's the gamble that he's taking.
It is something to think about, because I'm not entirely sure either. I'm kind of the camp of maybe deciding to do one more pit stop, maybe like take the extra fuel now, get onto the same pit cycle as everyone else with their tires, and then not take fuel when everyone else has to take both fuel and tires. But that's kind of a big risk. We'll see if it pays off though, as Stoll's did get past Willie, and now back behind Toasty.
Yeah, so there's a 3.5 second gap between Toasty and Stoles. Stoles likely to close the gap in the closing laps of this race. So Stoles has better tire wear, has a tire advantage as well. So I think this is going to be a close one. I think based off of what we saw in the first half of this race, Stoles, granted Toasty and Harm's Way were battling, Stoles was still able to close down like a 10-second gap between the two. And I think that kind of makes like a 3-second gap look kind of trivial at this point. He's already kind of closing it down to 3.5 seconds already. So we'll see if Stoles will be a legit contender for the win of this race.
I was going to say we had a very close fight for third place for a second there with Willie and Kip. Willie running out of fuel, it looks like, though, and having to make a very quick dive into the pits. And so Kip going to just inherit third place with Ryder about 3.5 seconds behind him.
Yeah, like I said earlier with Willie, Willie's kind of an interesting case because his strategies offset from Toasty and Stoles, who I think at this point are likely to be on an optimal strategy, knowing how they plan for these races and plan for contingencies as well. Although if Willie can, let's see here, Willie is currently sitting in 11th place at the moment. He's got probably enough fuel to go to the end, so 16 laps, and he might not have to make a pit stop for the rest of the race, because we saw earlier at the beginning of the race the Toasty, I think it was Harm's Way, and Stoles were able to make tires last for 17 laps. So Willie, towards the end of his stint, he could make it, but his tires will be almost completely dead, so he'll have to conserve his tires this entire stint and conserve them as well at the end of the race.
That's going to be the challenge for Willie. It looks like that's going to be what he's going to try and do, though. Kip going to dive into pit lane as well, potentially for his last pit stop of the race. Stoles about 5 seconds behind Toasty. Something happened there, because the gap was about 3 seconds earlier.
Yeah, it's possible Stoles maybe made a mistake or something. Pretty easy to do in a race this long with this many laps. We'll see if Toasty dives into the pits soon. We see that he typically dives into the pits a little bit earlier than most people, to not take his tires drastically close to the 0 mark. I suspect he will likely take a pit stop this lap, and this will be his in lap, and take the tires to the end of the race. Stoles has a little bit more tire left in his front left, but he is running low on fuel, so maybe he's not optimized his tire wear that well. Maybe he could have pushed his tires a little bit more in this stint.
Stoles may also be waiting to see if Toasty comes in and either come in at the same time or decide to go one more lap and try to stretch it out. And it looks like that the second option is what Stoles is going to choose to do. Toasty going in for their final pit stop of the race.
All right, so the race is on. So Stoles now going to have to do the most insane in-lap of his race to make up as much as time possible on Toasty. And then Toasty will have to have the most insane outlap coming out of the pits to stay ahead of Stoles. And we can see Harm's Way now in the net second place at the moment, but a solid 13 seconds behind Stoles. And in terms of like fuel, that's not really the difference that he kind of took in the pit lane. So 10 seconds of fuel is essentially the entire fuel tank. So even if he did have a fuel advantage, it'd be a maximum of half a tank, which is about what, 5 seconds. So in essence, like Harm's Way is really like a almost 10-second gap behind Stoles at the moment. All right, so Stoles jumps into the pits. Toasty is currently in the net lead right now. He's making his way across the front straight, and we'll see where Stoles ends up. You can see his car materialize there at the pit exit. And seems like he's quite a while back, quite a bit back actually. So Stoles has lost a bit of time. Now sitting at 4.5 seconds.
Stoll's going to have to try and get those tires up to temp very quickly to try and get that grip in them and try to make a run for Toasty right now. Kip not too far behind either, just going to just take that that 4th position. Has a little bit of tire wear, but I think Kip's going to be able to make it to the end of the race. I think he's good on his pit stops now. I think pretty much all of the field good to go till the end of it. Maybe Harm's Way might have to pit for tires. I don't know. He may try to stretch it out.
Yeah, I don't think Harm's Way is going to make it to the end on the set of tires. It's what, 12 laps with like he's hardly got any left on the front. He's certainly gonna have to take a pit stop, and then there he goes. Yep, but he only has to change tires. But I don't think it's gonna be a quick enough stop for it to be faster to get that podium position. I think Kip is looking real good right now for that 3rd place. Suppose we'll see when Harm's Way exits the pits. So Stoles passes Harm's Way. Kip is going to make his way through as well. Harm's Way takes a little bit of fuel and is going to appear on the pit exit. Yeah, they're going to be pretty close to each other. But Harm's Way is going to be essentially side by side by Nixon on the way out.
Nixon with a half-second penalty. Probably just went slightly too wide on the exit of either turn 5 or turn 6. Has to serve that penalty when we get to the back straightaway. Meanwhile, Harm's Way done with their pit, Kip done with their pit, Stoles done, and Toasty just trying to make as much ground as possible. Ryder currently in 6th place, having to fight off Willie right now, with Willie taking up their rearview mirror.
Oh, look at that. Ryder getting squirrely on the exit of turn 5, trying to maximize the grip out of turn 6, and then Willie looked like he was going to get able to get a run on him into turn 1, but is not able to. Elects to potentially do that into turn 2, so Willie gets a good exit out of turn 1, and will end up side by side with Ryder into the braking zone of turn 2. He takes the inside, and Ryder though sticks to the outside and keeps it there and defends that 6th position, keeping his car ahead of Willie.
Willie not wanting to give up though, going to try and stay. But that corner, I was about to say, I was a little worried about that corner cut. And Willie getting hit with a 1-second penalty for cutting the corner there a little too much. Another interesting fight here with Anthony Collazo and Zukost as they get ready to go into turn 1. And words. Zukost kind of getting a little squirrely there, but manages to keep the car under control and stay as close to Anthony Collazo's bumper as they can. An interesting fight for 8th place here.
Oh, Zukost gets wide out of turn 4, and will he pick up a penalty for that? His car certainly seemed like he exceeded track limits, but maybe there isn't a track limit penalty for that section of the track. Looks like Zukost will live to fight another day.
Certainly seems that way, as Collazo doing the line that I normally like to take, hit the tires onto the curb and kind of be a little close to that track limit to take turn 1. Meanwhile, Harmsway and Nixon in a close fight for 4th right now. Of course.
Yeah, and look at that. They're getting closer to Kip Dunkel lap by lap. So despite battling each other, Nixon and Harmsway are potentially looking to take that 3rd position away from Kip in the closing laps of this race.
If Harmsway is able to take care of the tires a little more, I would imagine that they should be able to get by Kip at least close to the end of the race. Yeah, Harmsway's tires looking extremely fresh compared to Kip's, so I imagine that Harmsway going to have the pace, if not to pass in the next lap or two, definitely close to the end of this race here. As it looks like Harmsway gets a good run out of turn 6. Going to stay behind Kip at the moment, but you got to imagine he's probably going to try and take a peek at least in the next corner or two, as Kip goes a little wide there. Might pick up a penalty, might not, depends on how much they decelerated for that. And Harmsway going to just slide on by to take that 3rd position. And unfortunately, Kip does take that half-second penalty from the track limits there.
So that potentially gives Nixon an opportunity to fight for 4th place. That half a second not being applied this lap will certainly slow down Kip the next lap. So that half a second kind of translates to about a second and a half down the back straight. So Nixon, if he maintains a clean lap, he'll be able to battle Kip in basically the last 4 laps of this race. And then it looks like Anthony Collazo and Zukost are still fighting out for 7th place. No changes in position there the last few laps. So here we go. So Kip now going to serve their penalty. And there we go. Nixon takes the inside of Kip into turn 5. They go side by side, and Nixon makes it stick. And he takes that position away from Kip. So Kip has dropped 2 positions from 3rd, and it finds themselves into 5th place.
Kip looking to stay close, though. Almost looks like he was going to take a peek on the inside of turn 1. They're going to actually take the inside into turn 2, and looks to make the move stick.
Yeah, so Nixon had to back out there on the throttle on the exit to avoid picking up a penalty, and luckily didn't pick it up, but is now able to fight Kip down the back straight and takes the inside and makes it stick again. So Nixon, having to pass Kip twice, has done it twice and made it very, very clean. The question is, will he be able to stay in front of Kip for the remainder of the race? Oh no, and I think he gets a little wide there again out of turn 1. And will he pick up a penalty? Will the Austrian stewards? No, it looks like he got away with it again.
I want to say, as long as you stay off the throttle a little bit, you're pretty much safe from that penalty. But you got to be careful not to get onto the acceleration too early, otherwise those Austrian stewards are gonna come down with the time hammer.
That was close again. Nixon, I don't know if I saw the tires go off of the curbs there. It's really close. So Nixon is absolutely pushing everything that this car has to offer on the absolute limit of track limits to keep this car in front of Kip. And as many of you know, it's harder to stay in the lead than it is to chase. So Nixon making the pass twice is easier said than done, but to keep the lead is easier said than done. So Toasty now in a comfortable lead, 4 seconds in front of Stoll, starts the final lap. Stoll's about 4 seconds behind, who is in turn 7 seconds ahead of Harm's Way. And Nixon has pulled a little bit of a gap from Kip, who picks up a 1.5 second penalty. But let's talk about Toasty. So Toasty, with the lead of this race, battling Harm's Way for essentially the first half of the entire race, drops down to, I think, 11th place or 12th after the VSC, and climbs his way back up to win this race. Absolutely mega drive by Toasty to take the win. I'm so impressive to watch Toasty race when he's on point. Stolz with a solid race, finishing in second, and Harm's Way with an excellent drive as well, recovering from that VSC to go back into the podium positions. Nixon in fourth, and then oh, look at that, Ryder ended up beating out Kip on that final lap because of Kip's penalty, it looks like. Zukost ended up getting around Anthony Colazzo. And then we got Stenzel finishing up in 9th place ahead of Dinosaur. And then we got Willie finishing up in 11th place. It looks like Willie is struggling with that front left. And it looks like the car is in auto drive, so maybe Willie has potentially just given up due to the tire wear of the car. But absolutely great race. Absolutely entertaining.
Very close at the end there. When in terms of strategy, I know Toasty was probably sweating bullets near the end there, wanting to make sure that their strategy was the good call, and it was tonight. Pulling away with the win. Stolz in second place. I think if that VSE hadn't happened, I think Stolz may have had it, and definitely had the pace to as well with the fastest lap of the night.
Yeah, the 5 second difference between first and second is easily the difference between the time that Toasty had gained cutting through the field and getting a little lucky actually on some of the overtakes, because some of the cars in front of him had either taken penalties or went off track. But Toasty, that's not to take away from Toasty's abilities. Toasty's an incredible driver and is able to cut through the field incredibly efficiently, as we've all seen in the FTGP races. So congrats to Toasty once again on an epic drive and epic recovery after the VSC.
I'm excited to see what these drivers have to offer for Daytona next week for the final race of the season.
Yep. So next week is our final race. It's round 6 of Daytona. It's the Daytona 175, and I think at this point, the drivers' championships for all of these races, for Division 1 and 2, the team championships for Division 1 and 2, and the overall are all probably still up for grabs. We'll have the official numbers going into the round next week, but if you're just joining us, we're LRC. Definitely subscribe to our channel or join our Discord, which is pinned. The invite link is pinned in chat. So click on that and you'll join us. You can join in right away and race with us on casual nights. We have an academy session tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if you just want to jump into our collaborative practice sessions to learn how to get faster, definitely check us out. And with that, any other closing remarks?
Nothing from me. Just a great job by the drivers. I'm excited to see what everyone's got in their bag of tricks for next week. And congrats on surviving Red Bull Ring, everyone, because Red Bull Ring is always chaos. So you survived the Red Bull Ring curse. Congratulations.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, that was overall like an extremely clean race for the Division 1. And with all the things our drivers have learned over the course of the season, we'll see how that stacks up in our final race. So the beginning of the season, we did Daytona, had a lot of safety cars, had a lot of VSCs, had a lot of incidents. We'll see how the end race stacks up to that. If we get the same amount of VSCs or we get less, racing's cleaner. We will see. It's going to be an awesome climax to the season, and we hope to see all of you there. So with that, we will see you next week, same time, 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. So thank you for watching.